When you looked at the press conference of General Mkhwanazi, what impression did that give you? Very concisely.
It gave me the impression, and I stated this, it gave me the impression that he was planning a military coup.
So as an expert of forensics and fraud and your experience in the military and police, what was your major concern for the country and the safety and security of this country when you saw that?
Well, Chair, I'm trying to give a quick answer, but I have to qualify it because at the time when he gave that media conference, I knew of his history because he had been involved in this incident that took place at IPED. So I knew that he wasn't this knight in shining armor that he was portraying himself to be. And when I read between the lines, and I don't know if it's true, but I believe it's true, I'm the only person that paid somebody to have that whole press conference transcribed. And the transcription is included in my annex sheets. And that transcription makes it clear that that whole media conference was intended to create the impression that there was a faction war. When I say war, a faction fight between what I would class as the Mkhwanazi team on the one side, and that team would have included General Masemola and General Khumalo, and the other team on the other side was, according to General Masemola, according to General Mkhwanazi, included General Sabia, the head of IDAC. I don't remember the names, but he said certain judges and prosecutors who were in the pocket of a big five cartel. And I formed the opinion that this was a whole distraction. And the distraction, by the way, if you look at the transcript, it's clear that the main gripe he has was that people in crime intelligence had been arrested and charged with corruption on what he considered to be HR issues. And I saw this whole media conference as being a red herring to distract everybody's attention away from the ongoing theft of public funds from the crime intelligence slush fund. And in order to do that, we create chaos. What is the purpose of having the whole of the senior management? If you're going to have a media conference, why do you need the whole of the senior management of the KZN police? Why do you need to have 8 people, 4 on each side of you, or 6 on each side of you, dressed in combat uniform, wearing face masks? The whole thing was stage managed. And the only purpose, in my opinion, of that conference was to destabilize further the already unstable criminal justice system.
On page 217, you don't need to go there. I hope that you can remember just because of time. There are affidavits from a few officers about the Fort Hare affidavits.
Mm-hmm.
These are members in the PKTT.
That's correct.
Why did you submit that evidence? What are you trying to tell us?
Because these were sent to me.
And it was sent in 2024, I see. It was not sent. So the motivation for sending it was not after the press conference. It was before the press conference.
Correct.
What is the contents of those affidavits?
The contents of the affidavits, as I explained earlier, Chairman, are that a person who was actually the main suspect in that particular leg of the investigation was bribing the members of the PKTT He was supplying, I can't remember who got what, but 10,000 to one guy, 2,500 to another, 5,000 to another, and a bag of new clothes to another. And if a suspect is going to be providing gratification to people that are supposed to be investigating these crimes, it ends up being a distraction. It creates a loyalty between the person paying the gratification. Because with gratification, there's always what we call a quid pro quo, which means I scratched your back, now you must scratch mine.
Are you testifying to this committee that affidavits was given to you by members of the PKTT, some members in the PKTT, admitting that they have been receiving bribes?
No, Chairman. The affidavits were given to me by a member of the PKTT who knew about these bribes and didn't want to be a party of it, and he sent them to us.
But essentially the contents points to the fact that some PKTT members are receiving bribes.
That's correct, Chairman.
You then, 2025, there was another affidavit by someone named Nenji. Briefly, just concisely tell us about that affidavit on page 310. Once again, this affidavit is dated February 2025. So your motivation here, once again, could not be because of the press conference of General Mkhwanazi. You had this affidavit before the press conference and before the committee was formed. Take us through it quickly.
Chairman, it's quite a long affidavit. But am I allowed to just give you a synopsis of it?
If you can do it very briefly, Mr. Solomon, I'd appreciate it.
The synopsis of it is, this fellow called Nangi, or Nanji, I don't know how to say it. And I've never met the person. I've spoken to his attorney, and his attorney wouldn't discuss the case with me. We received that document anonymously, once again. You can go on our website. You're able to upload documents anonymously. And we have a toll-free line that enables people to provide information anonymously. Now, the affidavit of this fellow Nangi or Nanji is, according to him, because it's an affidavit, according to him, he's innocent of all the charges that have been alleged against him. However, we keep an open mind on that because it may well be that he was involved in the crimes that he's accused of, which is allegedly kidnapping and demanding a ransom for the return of the person that's been kidnapped. And according to his affidavit, he was kidnapped and brought to different locations, not booked in terms of the police regulations. The police regulations require that if a person is arrested, they must be booked in to a police station and into the SOP 14 register immediately. You can't wait 3 or 4 days. So he was taken from A to B and C to D, and the people involved in this kidnapping were private security industry people, together with police officers from crime intelligence. And the last leg of this gentleman, well, I use the term gentleman loosely. The last leg of this gentleman's journey, according to his affidavit, was he found himself at what he describes as a black site, which was a farm somewhere in KZN. And whilst he was on that farm with another co-accused, the two of them were kept in separate rooms, and they were alternately tortured. And the torturing he describes in detail included what's known as waterboarding, where they put a plastic bag over the head and they put a tube in the bag and pour water into the bag so you feel like you're drowning. and you can't breathe, so you actually can lose consciousness. And that he alleges that happened several times. He alleges that he was very badly assaulted, and there's photographs showing the nature of the assault that took place against him, and that a pair of garden scissors, I think he means these shears that you cut the grass with or the hedge with, were used to assault him in his testicles to the point that he was bleeding in his urine. And finally, he said that while all this was going on, the senior cop that was there, Colonel Darwood, who has, to my knowledge, a history of this type of conduct, and I know that for a fact, because that's the same Colonel Darwood that kidnapped Sarah Jane Trin from our offices in February 2017. And the same Colonel Darwood was involved in an unlawful arrest of me. And the same Colonel Darwood was involved in the unlawful arrest of Advocate Gerrie Nel about the time when he wanted to prosecute Jackie Salebi. But the most telling part is that at this black site, this farm, he alleges that General Mkhwanazi was there. And in General Mkhwanazi's presence, Darwood continued assaulting him. He doesn't allege that General Mkhwanazi assaulted him, but he did allege that General Mkhwanazi told him that the other co-accused, a person by the name of Malotshwa, he said Malotshwa should have been better off committing suicide because of the torture that he's going to be facing. And Darwood allegedly, according to the statement, phoned Nangi's wife on the phone without realizing that Nangi's wife recorded the call. And in that call, which was made by Darwood in the presence of General Mkhwanazi, he told Nangi's wife that if you can't tell us where this kidnapped victim is and do it quickly, we're going to cut your husband up into pieces and send him back to you in a cardboard box. And the transcript is included in the documentation.
We now have 5 minutes left, and I want to break it up in this way. 2 minutes. Tell us about extrajudicial killings from the PKTT and the property purchases that you mentioned here, that we spoke about earlier on 282.
Okay, so if I deal with the alleged extrajudicial killings, and I say alleged because we got approached, and it's in the statement, so I can look, but I prefer to just do it from what I can remember. In the week following the 6th of July press conference, we received a call on our hotline, which is 0800 118 118. And the person that phoned that number left a message. And one of my staff phoned him back. And he said he would only be prepared to speak to me because he had some very compelling information that he wanted to share. So I had a phone call with him, and I recorded the phone call in case it was something very important, and it turned out it was. The person alleged that he was a member of, he called it PKTT, but I don't think it is PKTT. He said he's a member of this team. And the allegations he made was that they go around, they directed what they do, and they paid, and they're not police officials, but they're actually private civilians. And that they were recruited by a fellow who calls himself Baba Ndlovu in KZN, and they were taken to a training center where they spent several months doing training. And when they completed the training, they were then told, okay, you're going to be paid 20,000 Rand a month. And the 20,000 Rand a month, you'll be paid in cash. Now, Then they were told, now you must come and do some work because you've been trained for this work. And the work they were told they had to do was to help with crime prevention. And according to the statement of this chap, because we took a sworn statement from him.
You've got 2 minutes.
Okay, sorry. He alleges that
They killed innocent people.
yeah. And that they would sometimes kill them thinking they called it street cleaning, and that they would only find out afterwards that the people were innocent. And we therefore decided to provide a copy of we provide the originals in terms of Section 27 of the NPA Act. We provided same to IDAC. And we also provided same to the KZN
All right.
IPID.
In our last 2 minutes, 1758, in our last 2 minutes, tell the country the slush funds used to purchase properties.
Yeah.
And then who approves those purchases and for what reasons it is. And then you've got literally 1 minute, Mr. O'Sullivan. Let's go.
So the value of the properties, I can guess, because there's a figures there, but I can't look for it. It's approximately 120 million or 130 million rand. We got this information. And when we got the information, I carried out some research, and obviously we had the ability to do so. We used a site called Way Back When, and we managed to download the property advertisements for the properties in question. And with those property advertisements, we were able to then, with the documentation that we've been supplied, we then pulled the title deeds of the properties from the deeds office, and we were able to see that the properties had actually been purchased for a price higher than the advertised selling price of the properties. And then I was able to get the documentation showing how they would be paid for, and it was signed off by General Leshaba, General Kamalo, and General Masemola. And then we were able to establish, because we had the title deeds, we were now able to establish that the properties had now been registered in a private company, a PTY Limited, and we found that the directors of that private company were 2 employees of crime intelligence. And this is the final 30 seconds. During the period in question, South Africa was going through a very depressed, and still going through a very depressed property market. I was questioned earlier about why I decided to disinvest from property in South Africa, not my own house, obviously, but other properties. And I decided to disinvest. I sold a property in February 2025 that I paid 14 million for. Actually, I 12 million plus stamp transfer duty and the cost of getting it rezoned. So it cost me 14 million rand. I sold it in February last year for 7.5 or 7.7 million rand.
Honorable Vessels, may you please have your microphone on? Your time starts now.